7th, 2019, Cecilia Huerta Gallegos, a devoted mother and passionate nursing assistant, was captured by surveillance cameras entering her home, only to never be seen again. We all have those people in our lives who are devoted to taking care of others and will place the needs of others selflessly before their own needs. Now imagine this person was there one day and gone the next. Well, this awful reality occurred for the friends and family of Cecilia. So, what led to this tragic disappearance? Well, stick around and we will soon find out together. Hello, my lovely YouTube friends. I'm so happy to see you here today. So, for today, I have for you all another true crime video. And this case really captured me. I felt very close to who we will learn a lot about, and that is Cecilia. And I really wanted to share her story because we still don't really know what happened to her. We do, but we don't. We'll get into it. And I just felt very drawn to share this story. So, yeah, I won't say too much about it. Without further ado, let's just get right into it. Grab your favorite blanket, a snack, drink, whatever it is that will make you feel nice and cozy and relaxed. And let us get to ASMR. Let us begin by learning about the life of Cecilia Huerta Gallegos. Cecilia was born on November 17th in 1988. She had a pretty large family, which included 7 children total, and her 2 parents. Cecilia was the 5th child, or the 2nd youngest. And before Cecilia was born, her parents emigrated from the Dominican Republic to Houston, Texas, which is where Cecilia and all of her siblings were born and raised. Now, when Cecilia was a young girl, she often took the role of nurturer. Cecilia's siblings have stated that Cecilia would often nurse injured animals back to health and cared for really all animals, even those that most people might find kind of gross. For example, such as like rats. So, even from a young age, Cecilia was known to be caring and loving, a very loving person who willed nothing but good onto others. And this nurturing and loving spirit carried over from her childhood into adulthood as Cecilia became a mother. So Cecilia became a mother at Cecilia had her 2 children, but from what I could deduce from math of when she disappeared and her eldest child, I think she had her first child sometime in her later teens, potentially like 17. That's kind of from what I could tell, but my math could be wrong and birthdays might not be correct and all that. So during this time, when she had her 2 children, Cecilia lived at her grandmother's house in Houston, Texas, with her 2 children until about 2012. And sometime in 2012, when Cecilia was, I would think, around 24 years old, George, her children's father, was arrested and sentenced to 7 years in prison for burglary. And after this incident, Cecilia decided that, you know what, it's time to start new. And she made the bold and brave choice to move herself and her 2 children to San Antonio, Texas. So after moving to San Antonio, which, actually kind of fun fact, my partner was born there, Cecilia got a job working as a cashier at a gas station. And it was at this job that Cecilia met her current husband, Reyes Huerta Gallegos. No, I don't have too many details. This case, well, very important and had a lot of information about the case. I couldn't find too much information about the people and their early lives, so I really don't have too many details on Reyes, and unfortunately don't really have too many details on the couple's early relationship. But I do know that they got married not too long after meeting, as their marriage license was issued on February 26th, 2013, and executed on March 1st, 2013. So they probably dated, again, my math could be a little off, I'm not the best at math. They probably dated close to a year, or a little under a year, if she moved to San Antonio in 2012. So then about a year after getting married, the couple signed the deed to their family home on March 6th, 2014. After moving into their new home together, the couple had 2 more children together, which resulted in Cecilia making the decision to stop working and instead stay at home to raise her now 4 children. During her time spent at home, Cecilia also made the decision to begin studying for a professional certification in the healthcare field. Then, in December of 2016, Cecilia became certified as a nursing assistant. So Cecilia spent a few more months at home caring for her children, and then in July 2017, when Cecilia was around 29 years old, she got hired at St. Francis Nursing Home as a full-time nursing aide. Now, despite going back to work, Cecilia was still very devoted to caring for her children at home during the week. Cecilia primarily tended to the elderly residents of the nursing home. She is described by colleagues as being an exemplary worker who greatly cared for her patients, who went above and beyond what was expected of her, who was very reliable, and who really inspired others who worked around her. And alongside being caring and great at her job, Cecilia has also been described by her sisters as having a beautiful personality and being sweet and feisty and loud. And essentially, overall, Cecilia was very much cherished by her family, by her colleagues, and by her patients. Now, as Cecilia was developing a pretty solid career for herself, her husband, Reyes, had slowly over time became more and more possessive over Cecilia. Friends have stated that Cecilia had a curfew. She was regularly checked in on when she was taking classes to become a nursing assistant, and now was regularly checked in on at her new job. And these visits were not without incident. So, reportedly on June 22nd, 2019, after Cecilia had been working at the nursing home for almost 2 years, her husband got into an altercation with one of Cecilia's co-workers. And this wasn't really a small altercation. Reyes actually punched her male co-worker, whose name was Jeffrey Pardo, in the face. And this was later brought to trial in January 2020. But the charges against Reyes were dismissed due to the witnesses failing to appear in court, which I find kind of curious that they didn't show up. Like, why? Not blaming them, like, I'm wondering if there was more there that was like stopping them from wanting to show up, you know? So it is speculated that on this day that the assaults happened against the coworker, Cecilia had actually tried to end their marriage, which resulted in Reyes pulling out a gun, prompting Cecilia to basically just end their conversation for her safety and later go to work. And after this incident, Cecilia was deeply worried for her safety and the safety of her children, which rightfully so. And according to neighbors, Reyes had become so possessive that he refused to allow anyone to visit their home and had put a lock on the gate in front of the home to keep people out. Additionally, according to one of Cecilia's sisters, Cecilia had begun saving money for a house and an alarm system to ensure her and her children's safety away from Reyes. So it kind of sounded like she was like preparing to leave or wanting to leave and get her own place and make sure that place was armed and secured. But sadly, Cecilia and her children would never have the opportunity to live safely away from Reyes together. So, taking all of that information, again, I couldn't find too much, but I gave you all what I could find. Kind of all of that background. This now takes us to July 7th, 2019. Cecilia, who is now 30 years old, Cecilia at work around 6:40 p.m., where he approached her so closely that she had to back up and ended up being backed into a wall. And this interaction was caught on the facility's security cameras. And it is said that during this interaction, Cecilia looked very uncomfortable. It is unknown, however, what Reyes said to Cecilia, if anything. And after Reyes left, Cecilia went to talk to the head nurse and asked to leave early, after explaining that she wanted to check on her kids, who were at home at the time. It is also reported that after this incident, and before leaving the nursing facility, Cecilia called her younger brother and told him that she feared something was going to happen and that she needed to go home and watch her kids. So, according to home surveillance cameras, which were located outside and inside Cecilia and Reyes' home, Cecilia arrived home from work at 7:39 p.m. Then, less than 15 minutes after arriving home, Cecilia can be seen entering the primary bedroom at 7:53 p.m. So I'm guessing she probably went inside, checked on her kids, and then made her way into the primary bedroom after. And after she entered the primary bedroom, Cecilia has never been seen again. So before she went into the room, according to police, Reyes can be seen on the surveillance footage leaving the primary bedroom and attempting to keep his children, two biological, who were 6 and 7 at the time, and two stepchildren, who were 12 and 14 at the time, away from the primary bedroom. He essentially forced the children to stay in their rooms, where they heard a very heated argument taking place between Reyes and Cecilia. One of the children stated that she heard screaming and covered her ears to block the noise. The children, probably too scared to leave their rooms, stayed put all night and sadly never saw their mother again. 6:27 a.m. to go on the fourth trip and returned at 8:48 a.m. And when he returned, he is seen unloading a chainsaw, 2 shovels, contractor duty trash bags, and cleaning supplies from the SUV. And from what can be seen on the surveillance footage, Reyes appeared to be drenched in sweat upon his return. Reyes is then captured by the interior cameras going into the bedroom to take a shower. And then after doing so, he makes a phone call to police to report and I quote, cutting in progress. So, like, what the heck does that even mean? Let me tell you. So, after Reyes makes a call to police, San Antonio police officers arrive at the home and are greeted by Reyes, who had visible injuries to his face. Cecilia, however, was still nowhere to be found, and upon further inspection of Reyes's injuries, police take note of a large scratch mark on his chest, consistent with fingernails, and a superficial cut on his index finger. Now, this supposed cutting in progress that he described basically meant, according to Reyes, that Cecilia had cut him with a knife during an argument only 30 minutes prior to him standing there making that statement, which we all know. Is that really true? And according to Reyes's report, he stated that the argument involved possible infidelity and that the fight had turned physical when Cecilia attacked him with a knife. And after this supposed attack, this part I can't, Cecilia reportedly or supposedly then dropped the knife, stated that she was leaving the family, and walked out of the door, where she took off in a car with an unnamed man who was waiting for her outside. Totally believable, right? And at this time of the reports, Reyes actually did not report Cecilia as a missing person. He just basically claimed to be unaware of her whereabouts. Now, after this alleged altercation, 3 days passed, and Cecilia's siblings had not heard from Cecilia since that last pretty ominous phone call with her brother, which was pretty unusual and pretty concerning for Cecilia. Like, given her past behaviors, it was very unlike her to not go that long, or to go that long not contacting her family. So Cecilia's brother made a call to the San Antonio Police Department and asked them to complete a welfare check on Cecilia. And it is during this phone call that Cecilia's brother learned that Cecilia could not be found, as per the previous police visit to her house, where Reyes told police she had left and hadn't been seen since. And this was very shocking for Cecilia's brother, who at that point decided to file a missing persons report. And upon filing the report, police kind of then disclosed more details about the previous police report filed by Reyes on July 8th. And her family became more and more concerned and more suspicious as they learned all the details. And this is because Cecilia would never, ever voluntarily leave her children. What also stood out to Cecilia's family was that she did not take any clothes, money, or her vehicle, and that there had been zero activity on her cell phone or her credit cards since July 8th, when she allegedly left her family. And after Cecilia's family filed the missing persons reports, another situation occurred that made them even more suspicious of her disappearance. So on July 14th, Cecilia did not report to her shift when she was scheduled to work, which was extremely out of character for her, as she had always been consistent and reliable in her job, as we talked about earlier, and she rarely attended work late, let alone missed work completely without letting anyone know about it, without any prior notice. So due to this, Cecilia's siblings, named Mireya and Margie Lopez, reached out to a group on Facebook called Search and Support San Antonio, which was founded by a woman named Nina Brooks. So they basically reached out to this group because this group had recently gone to great lengths to help find another local missing woman, and them finding her essentially led to a conviction of her husband for her murder. So Cecilia's family had great hope that this group could potentially find Cecilia also. And upon hearing about Cecilia's case, Nina Brooks informed volunteers of the search and support group and also notified a person named Robert Green, who was the leader of another volunteer organization called Chainbreakers, which also aided in the search for the missing woman that they previously found and helped get a conviction for. So basically, Cecilia's family reached out for support from local organizations to help find Cecilia. They were kind of at their last straw, I guess, just reaching out for support anywhere that they could find it, because they really weren't getting answers from anywhere. So they had hope that these groups could really aid in the search and maybe even help find her. So the very next day, on July 15th, 2019, at around 2:30 p.m., Nina Brooks from the group Search and Supports, Robert Green from the group Chainbreakers, and a volunteer from Chainbreakers attempted to perform a wellness check on Cecilia at the family's request. And when the team knocked on the door of Cecilia's house, there was no answer. So because of this, they called police to perform another wellness check. And when police arrived, Reyes actually also arrived back home and kind of saw everyone congregating outside of his home. So eventually he allowed two deputies to enter his home. And the deputies took a look inside and shortly after exited the home, while letting volunteers know that they would be investigating the case further. And as part of this investigation, police went ahead and interviewed Cecilia leaving the home, as Reyes had originally claimed that she did. Basically, the footage captured a very different story, a very different account of events than the one Reyes had originally provided to police on July 8th. And his statement actually directly contradicted what can be seen on the surveillance footage. And then on top of this, Cecilia's friends actually came forward to reveal that Cecilia had kind of been making some very concerning statements to them before her disappearance. She basically told them kind of things along the lines of, should I ever go missing, please look for me and know that my husband did something to me, which is just so eerie and so devastating that, like, she felt it. She felt something within her. She wasn't safe. She knew she wasn't safe. Was trying to, like, prompt people, to warn people that, hey, if this happens, this is the person you look towards. Like, it's just very heartbreaking. Now, amidst all of this, right, let us not forget that Cecilia and Reyes had children, right? So about a week after Cecilia was reported missing, Child Protective Services removed the children from the home and placed them in the care of Cecilia's sister, Margie Lopez. And according to Margie, CPS placed them in her care rather than keeping them in Reyes's care or placing them with Reyes's mother due to the suspicious circumstances of the case. So they were thankfully finally in a safe place, and gosh, I can't even fathom, I can't even imagine, like, the confusion, especially of the younger ones. Like, how do you explain that? It's just, that's truly just devastating. I don't even, yeah, that is some next level, like, how do you process that as a child? So I'm glad that they were in a supportive and safe, emphasis on safe environment. Now, because the surveillance footage directly kind of contradicted the statement that Reyes made to the police, he was arrested and charged with making a false report on August 13th, 2019. However, he was frustratingly released on a $3,500 bond the very next day. But on September 4th, 2019, a judge actually increased the amounts from $3,500 to $75,000, and he was taken back into custody on September 5th, 2019. And according to court documents, this false police report case was closed on March 12th, 2020. So, sad essentially, he was being charged. I don't know if you would call it circumstantial. I mean, they don't have a body. They don't have evidence directly connecting, but, and that's hence the, or the cause unknown, or the means unknown. But putting the pieces together, putting the timeline together, kind of makes sense. So Reyes remained in prison until January 26th, 2023, when a judge, for reasons I do not understand, lowered his bond from $250,000 to $150,000, essentially allowing him to be released and, meet bond or make bond. So, is that the saying? So, Reyes is to remain, or has been, on house arrest until his trial, which, from what I could find, again, the details were very little, and the details of the case or the trial starting, I saw so many different dates. So the most recent one that I could find, because it looked like it had been pushed back many, many times, from the most updated source, looks like the trial's now set to begin in August of this year, 2024. Now, Search and Support San Antonio, the volunteer group, has organized numerous searches for Cecilia. Family, friends, neighbors, volunteers, the whole community, essentially. They've all searched the surrounding landscape, but her body has never been found. And if we're thinking what I'm thinking, that he went and buried her, got rid of her somewhere during that 2-hour trip, you're gonna have to search a perimeter of at least an hour there, an hour back. That's kind of how my mind thinks. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. So it's basically what I'm saying is that's a large area to cover to try to find her, and that's just, I would go mad thinking about that, of just all the places. And her family has also held news conferences, basically begging anyone to come forward with information on her whereabouts, including asking and essentially begging Reyes, the husband, if we want to call him that, the abuser, to just finally reveal the location of her body. But their pleadings go unanswered, as Reyes refuses to reveal any information about her whereabouts. posts on social media show that a vigil will be held on July 7th, 2024, to mark 5 years since Cecilia has been missing and presumed deceased. And the vigil will be held in San Antonio, Texas, with candles being lit at 7:39 p.m., which is the time Cecilia arrived home and was never seen again after. I recognize, however, that by the time I post this video, which, if I follow my schedule, will be after the vigil, after it's already passed, but I still wanted to share that as a detail because I feel like it really does capture and show how the community has really not forgotten Cecilia and really still cares so deeply to bring her home once and for all. So, that, my friends, brings us to the end of this case. It is not one that is necessarily unsolved, doesn't fully have a resolution yet, since there hasn't been a trial, and due to the fact that she is still missing, which is truly, truly devastating. And that's why I said at the start, something about this just stuck with me. I just really wanted to get her name out there on the small little platform that I have. There hasn't been. I always search up when I do cases to see if people are talking about them for multiple reasons, but there really weren't too many people online talking about or making videos about this case, so I felt it needed to be shared. So, yeah, this case also really highlights there's a lot of cases. Obviously, the rates, I don't know the exact numbers, but of course there's, more women who are murdered than men. I think that's, or at least in domestic violence situations. Correct me if I'm wrong, I could be way off, but from what I can remember. And this case, although we don't have, all the details, I think we have enough, it's safe to say that there was domestic violence, intimate partner violence occurring. And it also sounded like she was trying to make some type of plan. And I forget the exact number. I want to say it's 8 times that a woman will try, or a victim will try to leave before they finally leave. And when they do, it is the most dangerous time for them. And I think this really shows that and highlights that. And so this area of this kind of, I don't know what the right word is, niche, this population, intimate partner violence, domestic violence, abuse, just all of that, relationship abuse, all of that is what I am so passionate about. It is the type of trauma that I am just very passionate about helping. Of course, all types, but we all kind of have those areas that we are most passionate about or find, our interests lie in. And this is that for me. And it's because of my background. I have a background working with survivors, and I think that's why it just really stuck with me, because she is people I cycles. Not saying this happened with her, but it often happens, and it's because we don't know any better. We go where it feels comfortable, and a lot of times turmoil feels comfortable. And I am just also very passionate about helping teens and young adults rewrite that part of their story so that they feel comfortable in safety, not in turmoil, and that they know what to look for and they can spot very quickly, like, that's a red flag, that is not okay, that is, that's abusive. And a lot of times it's scary to admit that. And if you're in a situation like that, I am here, and I feel your pain, and I feel your struggle, and for your safety, please leave. It's scary, but what's scarier is that it could get worse, and who knows, right? The worst is this case, is this outcome. So I have a little worksheet here of like relationship green flags. So just briefly to go over qualities of a healthy relationship. Our partner appreciates us. They are committed and invested in us. They take responsibility for their actions and work to solve problems with us. They have empathy for us. They understand our feelings, or at least try to understand them, even if we don't always agree. They allow us to have our own independence, our own interests and goals separate from our partner. And I think for Cecilia, it sounds like she didn't have that. I mean, she probably didn't have a lot of these things, but I know that was mentioned. Safety. They respect our boundaries. We feel safe physically, emotionally, all of that. There is a good balance. We don't have to spend all of our time together, and we're not always apart. It's a good balance. Commonality. We share important goals, beliefs, morals, values, all of that. We communicate effectively, obviously. That's huge. We need to be able to feel safe to communicate and to have a partner who respects when we are trying to communicate. Honesty. Our actions align with our words. Our thoughts that we express are genuine. Intimacy. We feel close. We feel connected to our partner. And lastly, self-confidence. We feel the most comfortable being ourselves in the relationship. So, for those young viewers out there watching, just wanted to give you that tidbit because we don't always know that. We don't always know these things, and it's no fault of ours. Honestly, it's a privilege to have that knowledge. So my heart really breaks when I see the cycles repeating, and I am so passionate. I'm so passionate about cycle breakers and helping people become that. And this includes breaking the cycle of just awful relationships. So, yeah. I don't know if that was helpful. I just wanted to get that out there. I felt it was important and wanted to, just further get that information out because I felt so deeply for this case, and I know that there are so many of us out there who are exactly like Cecilia. So let us all, whether we're religious or not, we're spiritual, just send prayers, healing, vibes, whatever works for you, out into the universe so that we can present.